the wrestling world making a big fuss because these two guys did an hour-long draw. Well, my co-host used to do those 6 or 7 times a week. Let me introduce to you the original 60-minute man. He is the 16-time world champion. He's the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Nate, 60 minutes. That ain't nothing for a man like you, is it?
It's a lot for any man. And credit to both those guys. When we talk about people, just because I'm not over the top as someone as an individual, it's nothing about them personally. It just, you asked me the question about Daniel Bryan. I think he's good, very good. I just said he's not Ricky Steamboat. But I thought those guys, he and Cage had a hell of a match.
And let's talk about that, Nate. It was a 1-hour draw on AEW TV. And let's talk about the work. Let's break that down. What did you like about the work? What didn't you like? What made it good?
What made it good was the pacing. They didn't slow down. In today's TV, I'm not even convinced right now, as great as Harley Race was, or Terry, or Dory, or Jack, or whatever group we're placed in. Hopefully, I'm part of that, one of those groups. That it makes a difference, because the fans, it's a different scenario with the fans that are watching now. Yes, the old time fans appreciate it. I don't know if the new time fans do or not. I guess, I didn't see what the ratings were, but I appreciate the hard work, and I'm telling you, less than 10% of the guys in the business today can do an hour like that. Maybe less than 10%.
I think it's probably a smaller number than that, Nate. And I thought the match was outstanding.
Yeah.
The ratings were good. They went up during the match. They gained viewers each quarter hour, and that speaks to its success.
It does, and that speaks volumes for the word wrestling. It's not always talking. It's not always all the backstage stuff. If it's two good guys that can really work like those kids can, and then they had a hell of a match. I wouldn't have tweeted that out if I didn't think so. I guess just being part of social media now, which I like being part of, on the positive side of it. But I can't lie, deny the fact those guys had a hell of a match, and I'm proud to say that about both of them as having been a guy that did, as I said, more hour draws than anybody in the history of the business. And to answer your question, I did 7 one week with Ricky Morton, 7 another week with Ricky Morton, and then I've done in the week of Florida. I tried to figure it out since you asked me that question. I probably have done somewhere between 40 and 50 weeks of hour on Broadway. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean without a break. When I went to Florida, it was an hour in West Palm Beach, an hour in Tampa Tuesday, TV, an hour Wednesday night, hour Thursday Jacksonville, hour Friday in Sarasota, hour in the Bayfront, and then, as an example, in Florida, I would wrestle in Ocala for an hour in the afternoon on Sunday, and Orlando that night for an hour. So, and that's when I had a hard time sleeping, was in Florida. You gotta celebrate the hour, man.
Well, let me offer a few minor criticisms of the match, and I thought it was terrific, but just a few things that I see. Is an hour too long? I think that match works just as well as a 30-minute draw.
Well, I'm not arguing with you, but you said the ratings went up during the body of the match.
Right.
So it proves, it depends on who's in it, but in this case, it proved that it wasn't too long. Because they could have pulled that match off in 30 minutes and put something else in there they didn't like, and they would have dropped. So who's to say?
Is a draw a bad finish? Danielson also had a draw with Omega not too long ago. Do the fans accept...
An hour draw?
Yeah, an hour draw. Do the fans accept... It might have been half hour. My memory...
I don't remember an hour draw on TV for a long time.
Well, no, Danielson and Omega definitely did a draw. I guess it was a half an hour draw, now that you mention it. But don't fans want winners and losers?
Mark, big difference between an hour and a half hour. Well, that's a half hour longer.
I know. I couldn't do it. I did 3 minutes with Gene Okerlund. I nearly had hemorrhage. But do fans accept draws? Forget about the hour. Forget about the half hour. Do
If it's a good one, hell yeah. Absolutely. If it stinks the joint out, no. So you got to know who the players are. You have to have confidence. I'm sure Tony has had a ton of confidence in both of them, as they did themselves. And they went out and they put together a hell of a match. And the thing that I'm most proud of is that probably less than 10% of the guys in both companies could do them an hour at that pace.
Now, you had 2 hour
In either company, rather.
You had 2 hour-long matches on TV against Wyndham and against Steamboat. Let's talk about the Wyndham draw first. That was on syndication. It was the whole show. The entire show was you and Barry, and that was unheard of at the time.
Yeah. Well, there's another guy. I can't say enough about Barry Wyndham. You know, people forget that Barry is 6'6" and weighed 260 pounds, and to be able to go an hour, never take a breath, I mean, and stay out all night long with me. He never left my side. Barry may have stayed out later than me, but he just got in the ring. He was so natural, so good. We never talked about anything. We had such great chemistry that I wish his name was remembered in more high regard, because Barry Wyndham was one of the greatest of all time.
Now,
One of the greatest. Well, I'll use that word with Barry Wyndham all day long.
Now, with that Wyndham match, how did you guys deal with commercials? Did you do anything in the match to allow for them, or did you just...
No. My theory, it's Mick Foley's greatest line to me. He said, "Why do you want to work through the break?" I said, "Because you never know when the camera's on you, man." I work right through the break. I don't care what they tell me to do. I'm not comfortable throwing a guy out on the floor. I wasn't in those days. And then just walking around the ring, you know, which is what they do now sometimes. I don't know why, I'm not the producer and I'm not the boss, but I would actually sometimes go to break while they're trading punches at the most, like, I mean, I have to go there again. I have to throw her and Sasha in this again. Two great performers, but in that tag match, they had Monday night, which was the opener. They tore the joint down. And when Sasha and Ashley put on a clinic, God, I mean, for men and women, they put on a clinic. But when they were trading forearms and chops and whatever they were doing, that's when the people, sometimes you go, my God, sometimes I'd rather have them go to break there to know that I would never come back and not miss that. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. And I think it's good to go to the break hot. I think that makes...
I do too. I don't, we're going to argue that forever. But that clinic, you saw the match, right?
Of course.
The girls all worked their ass off. It was tremendous. They stole the show. And by the way, the boys didn't follow it until Roman came out. Sorry, guys. Till Roman and Brock and Paul, they followed it, but nothing else did on the show. The girls stole it. My hat's off to all of them. Becky and Sasha, a little bit, they were in there together, man. It's chemistry is good, if not better. I wouldn't say better, because Ashley does a lot of aerial stuff than Steamboat and I. But I mean, when I see those two, I go, oh my God. Anybody watch that match, it was magic for both of them.
Not only did Ashley and Sasha do very well, but I think they carried the two relatively green girls.
Absolutely. But the girls, they can't be expected to work at the same rate that Ashley and Charlotte have. But Ashley and Sasha have. But they carried their end off, and they worked hard, and they kept up with them, and that's the name of the game. That's how you stay on the team. You don't always have to be the fastest or the most elite player on the team, but you've got to keep in it, and they all did, and my hat's off to all four of them. They were great.
Now, you went 55 minutes with Steamboat on the Clash in New Orleans in 1989, not quite an hour, and it was best of three falls, and it ended with a disputed finish. How do you remember that match?
I thought it was okay. For Steamer and I, we've had better. The crowd was kind of dead. I mean, I didn't think if anything Steamboat and I ever did was good. That was not great by any means. We certainly had better hour Broadways. It was good. It served a point. People got fired over that because they didn't advertise it, so no one was in the building. It was horrible. They spelled my name wrong. I mean, that was typical of WCW. They put R-I-C-K. I look at this, I look at Steve-O, and I said, it's going to be a long hour. They can't spell my name right. Buddy Rogers and Pat O'Connor are sitting out there, and Terry Funk, but they can't spell my name right. Needless to say, I drank a lot that night at Commander's Palace in New Orleans. Thank you.
Now, you mentioned before that Danielson and Hangman really went at a good clip during their hour.
Yes.
The pace was tremendous. But there has to be some rest built into a 60-minute match. How did you approach that? When to kind of cool it down and for how long?
But in my matches?
Yeah.
Well, it all depended on who I was working with. I mean, I've had a lot of matches. Listen, like I said, Mark, I feel like a lot of great matches during an hour, but I've had some horrible too. And I can't totally blame on my opponent, but some people just aren't made to wrestle an hour. And the way that the NWA champion toured and traveled, it was either an hour or it was the champion won. That was just the way it was. And so many times the promoter, instead of being smart and figured out a finish that would, make everybody look good, they just didn't want their guy to get beat. But some guys, I've had guys throw up on me 15 minutes into the match. What are you gonna do? You got 45 minutes left. I mean, I've had guys quit during the hour. They say, I can't do it anymore. Walk back to the dressing room. They weren't screaming at me. They were screaming at them. Because it's hard, and then, with Steve-O and I don't know, I bet Steve-O and I did 200 or 390-minute matches. And I'm sure Harley and I have. Oh, yeah, over the years.
Minutes.
Over 15 years? Oh, yeah, easy. We would go to a town, we'd go wrestle an hour every night. I can think of it, probably about 30 cities in the Mid-Atlantic Territory back then. We'd wrestle an hour and then come back and then we'd do a 90-minute time limit. That's Steamboat, man. But it was easy with him. It was never, the crowd was so into it, he was so over, and we were sold out, which makes a big difference. It's a lot easier and a lot less painful to perform in front of a live crowd that's large, as opposed to doing an hour, which I have with Brody in front of 250, well, maybe 500 people. And hate to crack on the town of Wichita.
Well,
Wichita.
I hate to ask you this, Nate, but what's the worst 1 hour draw you've ever done? Where did it just go all bad?
I can tell you where it was. I don't know what the city was. It was somewhere in Oklahoma. It was with Rufus R. Jones or Bob Brown, one or the other. I think it might have been Bob Brown, the Canadian kid. And just couldn't get it going. The crowd didn't buy either one of us. And that was the first night I ever pushed the referee with a guy named Sonny Myers. And I came back, I walked through the door and Robley was standing there. He was the booker. He goes, boy, that's cheap heat for the world champion to push the referee. I said, Buck, you go out there and wrestle Bob for an hour tomorrow night. Let me know how that works for you. That was it. Hence the referee bump. Here's the deal. When Dory was champion, Dory Jr., right, who's still living, and God, one of the great ones, he traveled with Jack together. When Jack was champion, he traveled with Jack. In other words, they wrestled each other, and no matter what territory they went to. They just took their show on the road, kind of like I referred to with Billy Darnell and Buddy. They took that, so they wrestled each other. And if they didn't wrestle the top guy in the territory, they wrestled each other. That's why Jack quit. You know what he did? He called Eddie Graham on his way back from I don't know where and said, have someone at West Palm Beach tonight. I'll drop the title. I'm done. I'll quit. And then as legend says, I can call Jerry right now and ask him. I think after he dropped the title to Terry, that was a double cross because it was supposed to be Harley, but that's when politics were running hard back then, as they do now. Jack drove back home that night. I think he threw his watch off the Gambie Bridge, because when you're the world champion in that time frame where you're traveling a lot, I mean, like long trips, Europe, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, back to the States, back to Japan. All you do is live by your watch. And then you get in the ring and you're living by 60 minutes. And you're waiting for that referee to say 5 minutes left, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because, man, it could be a long, long ass night out there if you're not enjoying yourself. And by enjoying yourself, I mean, having a somewhat good match that people can relate to and are enjoying.
Well, talking about that match between Danielson and Hangman, I was very impressed with Hangman Page because
Me too.
we knew Danielson could do that match. He's done it before. He's that kind of worker. But that's really one of the first examples of that lengthy quality match we've seen from Adam Page.
Yeah, well, I had no idea they were going to do that, but as I said, I watched every minute of it. I didn't walk away from it. I thought they did a great job. I like it when they can go to a commercial break and still keep some of the match on. I don't know why they can't do that all the time. That's something somebody can explain to me when we're off the air. But I love it when they can, keep a frame of the match going while they go to a commercial break. I think that's great.
Yeah, I do too. They got to be careful not to do anything climactic.
Yeah, exactly.
On split screen, but they've done that. So
yeah.
Kudos to their production. Now, Danielson has been in AEW for 12 weeks now. 12 weeks. And he's wrestled 16 matches on TV. Is he their number one star now?
I'd have to say he is, yeah. I mean, I like his work, guys. Don't misunderstand me. He's a workhorse. And, he went through a lot. I know that just from knowing a little bit about him personally, he went through a lot when he was laid off. I think when you embrace this business the way he apparently does, much like I do, or a lot of other people. When he sustained that injury, I think it was a head injury or neck, I can't remember, but I think a concussion. It really affected him not being able to work in the ring. So when he was able to get back in, I'm so happy for him because I know it's meant the difference to him in his lifestyle and everything else. Being happy in life and being happy in the business can have a lot to do with you being happy in life if it's your passion.
Now, you mentioned before that when you were NWA Touring World Champion, you either had to get a win or it was a draw. I mean, that just was the way it worked. Now,
yes.
With the world title on TV all the time now, pay-per-view, TV during the week, it's a regular thing to have a world title match on TV. Does the world champ need to get wins? Does the title need to be kept maybe stronger than it did when you went from territory to territory?
Well, that's hard to say because television is different now. I think it's good for the champion to be on TV. I mean, I can't see enough. I love seeing Roman when he's there. I love seeing Big E. I think having a champion on is important for programming because those are the two guys, or in this case, it would be like Becky and Charlotte. You've got your four champions, and they're the people the fan base. You're building your company around, especially the fan base at this particular time. And I think that you're going to see Charlotte and Becky and Big E and Roman or whoever are in those positions of being champions on TV all the time because that's what your fan base wants and that's what they're paying for. Even though it's free TV, it's not because the advertisers are paying Vince a lot of money. So he's going to put his best people out there, as will Tony.
Okay,
so to answer your question, apparently Tony thinks that Bryan is the number one guy.
Moving on now to our next segment, the weekly.
Now I'm not sure I'm offended somebody else, but he's damn good.